Hi everyone, my name is Bora, and in this video I'll show you how you can deploy Polyaxon CE to a Kubernetes cluster. So for the purpose of this video, I have provisioned a single node cluster. The idea here is that I'm going to use the default values that come with our Helm charts. So by default, Polyaxon uses a host path to store and manage the artifact. I think this is sufficient for trying out the platform or testing out a configuration, especially if you have a single node. But if you are deploying Polyaxon to a multi-node cluster, we suggest that you use a different artifact store. So we suggest you use GTS, Azure Blob Storage, an S3 bucket on AWS or MinIO, or an NFS store. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to have access to kubectl and Helm CLI. We also suggest that you install Polyaxon CLI on your machine. This will allow you to perform a couple of checks before attempting to deploy a configuration. So for instance, if we want to change a couple of values, let's say, for example, in this case, we want to change the namespace and the release name, we can run Polyaxon admin deploy and the config file -- check, and this will validate that the config file is correct, that kubectl is installed, and then Helm is installed. Now we can deploy this configuration. As soon as the configuration is deployed, Polyaxon will tell you like which namespace was used, as well as will tell you like how you can expose the traffic. So by default, Polyaxon uses a cluster IP type of service, meaning it doesn't expose the API and the UI to the external world. So you will have to expose the traffic to your local machine. In a production environment, we suggest that you use an ingress or a load balancer to expose the traffic. But for the purpose of this video, we are just going to port forward the traffic to our local machine. So I'm just going to run Polyaxon port forward. This will both expose the traffic on our local machine, but also it will configure the CLI automatically. So if I bring another terminal here, work on the virtual environment, I can check that I don't have any project yet. So we can see that the CLI is running, is configured, and is talking to the API. So I'm just going to create a project called Quick Start and give it a description and some tags. And the CLI will tell you that it was created and that you can see it on the UI. So if you go back, refresh, you can see that we have now a project created. We can also create a new project using the UI. So let's say demo, testing, and create. So now we have two projects created. If we go back to the CLI, enter project ls, it will show us that we have two projects created. So that's it for this video. We wanted to see how we can deploy Polyaxon CE to a cluster. In the next video, we're going to deploy Polyaxon agents connected to our control plane, Polyaxon Cloud, on a multi-node cluster. I'm going to use AWS, so I'm going to also use an artifact store of type S3.